Hi guys, so United stay top of the league just about after drawing with Liverpool. Fantastic result for us. I mean, probably slightly better for us than it is for Liverpool. Obviously, I would have liked to win the game, and I felt with the chances United had, we should have probably gone on to win it. But if you'd offered me a draw in the first 25-30 minutes, I would have snapped your hand off right there. So in that sense, it's a positive result. Individually, I do want to give a bit of credit to United players before we start. I think Luke Shaw was absolutely fantastic. He was my man of the match. If you want to see why, go head to TikTok, look for Statman Cam, as you can see spelled up there, and you'll have my 60-second review of Luke Shaw's performance. It was fantastic. Harry Maguire was also brilliant, as was Victor Lindelof. And there were a lot of eyebrows raised about Lindelof starting the game, but he showed why he was trusted in such a big game, and he was fantastic again today. So, in that first 20-30 minutes, as everyone knows, Manchester United were absolutely dominated by Liverpool. And so it wouldn't be sensible, really, to start the analysis with anything other than why that happened. And for me, there was a main reason for this being the sort of game plan from United and the way it panned out. So United, as we often do, and you will have heard of it, you have heard me say it before, out of possession, when we didn't have the ball and we were defending deep, we dropped back into a 4-4-2. So it's been proven statistically the 4-4-2 is the best formation defensively for covering the most area of the pitch possible. And when Liverpool have got threats from wide areas, which they do, both with their wingers and with their fullbacks, it's important that you do cover the whole area of the pitch. However, what this did leave us as a problem was this midfield area here. Because Fred and McTominay were up against the Liverpool midfield three by themselves. Because of the 4-4-2, United had Fernandes and Rashford up top ready for the counter, Martial and Pogba taking care of the Liverpool fullbacks wide. So what it meant was that when Fred and McTominay decided to go man for man against the Liverpool more advanced central midfield players, we had a spare man here, which was more often than not Thiago. And he's got the qualities to make real inroads into United and cause us real problems if he's allowed to be that spare man. Which is why in that first 20-25 minutes, Liverpool were able to have so much joy. The other thing that happened in this area was that Fred, very often in those first 20-25, was when this man had the ball here, he would dive in, and whether it was Thiago, whether it was Shaqiri, whether it was Wijnaldum, normally Shaqiri or Thiago, they'd take it past him very easily, and because McTominay's man-for-man on the other central midfield player, he can't get across quickly enough. And so this man is through up against the United defence, able to sort of look at slipping in one of their forwards. So that's why it was really hard for us in those first 20-30 minutes, and why Liverpool had the ball in our penalty area quite a lot, and why they were close to scoring some goals. The other thing that happened, which was made it really difficult for United to get our foot in the game, to get a foothold in that area, was obviously Ole Gunnar Solskjaer selected McTominay and Fred for their defensive ability, their work rate, because he knew that we'd have a man less in midfield. He obviously made that decision knowing that we'd then have more threat on the counter possibly, and we'd take care of Liverpool's fullbacks better. But the other thing that this caused was because McTominay and Fred aren't necessarily the best in possession, but to be fair, I don't think anyone else would have done well here either, was that as soon as we got the ball back, we tried to play through McTominay and Fred rather than just playing early straight into those spaces. And every time we tried to play through McTominay and Fred, Liverpool 3-on-2 were able to press and win the ball back so easily off them and stop us playing forward, but not just stop us playing forward, win the ball back themselves to go on the attack. So it made it really hard for United to get out ourselves, and that's why Liverpool were able to sustain that pressure for so long. Now, in terms of the decision Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has made in that sense to go with Fred and McTominay, I think it was a reasonable decision going with those two, because what they're both able to do is fill in these half spaces here between the centre-back and the full-back. So if Liverpool get their full-backs wide, our full-back can take care of them, whilst Fred or McTominay on the other side help out Maguire, dealing with the Liverpool wingers when they drop a bit deeper or when they operate in a slightly wider space. So for me, that's why Ole Gunnar Solskjaer made that decision, and I think it worked well for the majority of... Well, it worked okay for the majority of the game, bar that first 20 minutes. And the reason it worked well after that was that Fernandes then decided to drop from this 4-4-2 and basically sit on Thiago. So Fernandes did seem a bit quiet, but defensively he was doing an important job there in terms of marking Thiago. Oluyumi says, hello man, how are you doing? Do you enjoy the game? How do you feel about the result? I mean, obviously we stay top. I think City can now go above us if they win their games in hand, but we're still on the top of the table as it currently stands. So how do you feel about that one? So as we've seen, the first 20 minutes were really difficult for United because of our out of possession shape, the 4-4-2 that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer went for, knowing that it's covering the most space, but it gave us that deficiency in midfield. So as soon as Fernandes dropped in and sort of did a bit of a job on Thiago, we got better in that area. Now, the other thing I want to draw attention to is another secret weapon that Liverpool used quite often, and it was something that I was impressed with the way United dealt with all game. So I'll just move the players forward. If you've got anything you want me to talk about, do drop me a comment, do let me know, and I'll happily move on to that afterwards. But if we sort of say, so Liverpool are on the attack, I suppose, with their fullbacks, and the game's a little bit more stretched. So what they often do is they look for slightly longer passes from their fullbacks, knowing that they've got incredible technical quality. So let's say Trent is on the ball here, and Luke Shaw oftentimes will go out and press him to try and make his life a bit difficult. And naturally, what will then happen is Salah makes that run down the line in case that ball comes down the line. And because Salah's gone there and Luke Shaw's out here pressing Trent, Harry Maguire has to follow him out wide, which, I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. He has to do it. Knowing that that ball will probably come out wide and he'll be able to head it away and shouldn't let Salah out of this position here. He can't let Salah back inside. But what Liverpool do really, really well is whichever side it's on, that ball there goes into Firmino into that central man. And because he's this side of the centre-back, Lindelof normally had trouble getting across, and most centre-backs do in that situation. He's the other side for a reason. And Firmino will win that knock-on and knock it down to Salah, who can quickly chop and change from running down the line there to cutting back inside there. And so whilst Maguire's making that run outwards, obviously a big centre-half is going to take time to turn and run back in field. So he often ends up receiving that ball or not able to keep up with Salah. So Salah's able to run onto that ball after it's been flicked on, and he ends up through on goal. So it was really important that United dealt with that trick well, and we did it on both sides, whether it was Shaw and Maguire or Wan-Bissaka and Lindelof. So I was really pleased with the way United dealt with that all game long, to be honest. Now, in terms of United's game plan ourselves, when we were in possession, when we had the ball, it seemed to be very much that we were sort of trying to play with the front four and leave everyone else to sort of sit back and do most of the defensive work. When we did get our fullbacks up the pitch, we were fantastic in the sense that we did get some chances in. When obviously Luke Shaw overlapped really well, when Rashford, I think it was, out wide, fixed Trent in his position. Shaw came around, bombing around the outside. Trent was flat-footed and couldn't move. Got the ball back inside, and Bruno Fernandes very nearly scored. Fantastic save from Alisson. And obviously for the Pogba chance, Wan-Bissaka did something similar down the right. Now, Oliomi says, good result, we're difficult to beat nowadays. Yeah, completely agree with you, mate. Fun fact, since Bruno Fernandes came into United, we've only lost 3 games in the Premier League. So he came in, I think his first game was last February. Since his debut, we've only lost 3 Premier League games. That's a fantastic record, whatever way you look at it. And away from home, I think we haven't lost for a calendar year in the league. So whatever way you look at it, whether United go on to win the title this season or not, we're showing signs of developing into a real force. And now, a lot of you will remember, obviously a couple of years back, Liverpool were building up to this from when Klopp took over. And the first signs were their record. They've had this home record for, I think, 3.5, 4 years now, where they haven't lost at Anfield. That's got to start from somewhere. It didn't just start as soon as they started winning the title. It started long before that. So it's important to see, and it's nice to see from United, that we're able to start building that record. Obviously, it's away from home, not at Old Trafford at the moment. But the record of only losing 3 in the league since Fernandes came in is also fantastic. So it shows that we are building something, and we're really looking to make progress. So whether we win the title or not this year, you can clearly see the progress in terms of results under Solskjaer. And as the team gets better and better, the tight games which we're drawing at the moment, we'll end up getting 3 points from. So there's clear progression there at the moment. Now back to the game plan. And obviously United aim to attack with a front four where possible, making the most of Liverpool's fullbacks being wide and high quite often. And what we saw very often as well was when United got the ball in these wide areas, rather than playing infield to the next man or even the man there, looking for that sort of ball behind, United played right the way to the opposite side because a lot of the time Liverpool defend quite narrow, or either their fullbacks are out of position way up the pitch, or they defend quite narrow. So a lot of the time United did try to play that ball right the way across the pitch to the wide man on the opposite side, who plays it back infield, and then maybe they're looking for combinations to try and beat Fabinho and Jordan Henderson, who maybe weren't quite so used to playing centre-backs, but they did a fantastic job anyway. So for me, I think it was difficult because I think that was a game plan from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, thinking if we throw 4 at it, we've still got 6 back. So we're able to watch for the counter-attack and try and defend that and not lose the game. So for me, that was the thinking from Solskjaer. And, you know, it's frustrating because I wanted to see us go out and win that, and we weren't quite able to, but I can completely understand the logic behind it, so it's fair enough. Now, Bruno Fernandes didn't have his best of games, but I thought he was growing into it when he got taken off, so it was disappointing that happened. Martial, I think it was probably a fitness issue, but any of him, Rashford or Pogba could have come off, to be fair. Now, I want to talk about Paul Pogba. So, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer obviously selected Paul Pogba here, on the right. When he's played well on the left in recent games, he selected him on the right. And the reason for that, I think, was firstly to keep tabs on Robertson, but also so he can be that extra man in midfield, pick up the ball a bit deeper. But he's a wide target man on the right. But the main reason for me was that if he were on the left, when he looks for those balls in behind to the likes of Rashford or Fernandes, he's got to turn his body infield. So he's got to play it, he's got to almost face towards the pressure. And when Liverpool have got the likes of Fabinho and Henderson and the midfield looking, it's the midfield are obviously their main workhorse defensively. The pressure comes from the inside out. So if you've got a player turning infield, he's turning into the pressure. So for me, that's why Pogba was playing on the right instead. So that when he got that ball, he could look for that ball in behind by going around the defence, rather than having to turn himself inwards into the oncoming pressure from the midfield players. So I think Solskjaer played Pogba on the right with the aim of creating those chances for those balls in behind, but without losing the ball in midfield. And for me, I think Pogba had a decent game. I think there were a lot of opportunities when he was pressing, that he won the ball back in these areas here between their centre-back and full-back. He was able to nip in as well on their midfield a few times. I think Pogba had a decent game. He won't get the credit because he wasn't fantastic, but I think he did have a pretty good game, Paul Pogba. Now, if there's anything else you'd like to see, do let me know down in the comments below. But other than that, I think that's just about it for the tactical analysis of this game. So the main points being, obviously, the 4-4-2 and the spare man it gave them in midfield led to their domination in the first 20-30 minutes. And then after that, United's game plan was send the 4 up. When we had the fullbacks, we created chances. With the 4, the idea was just switch it wide and try and look to beat Henderson and Fabinho in the centre where possible. That's it from me. If you've enjoyed it, do smash a like on the video, get yourself subscribed, and until next time, which is Fulham at the weekend, thanks so much for watching, and goodbye.